Hey, Steve again with TUA Outdoors. So we've been talking a lot about survival. So one of the key pieces of equipment that you always want to have with you on every single day hike, if you're doing a day climbing trip, if you're doing a paddling trip, is what's called your 10 essentials. So this is really essential because this is going to help you maintain your survival priorities. So this is a real basic dry bag that I purchased and put together. I went with this white and red, so it's nice and high visibility because this has my first aid kit in it. I always keep this at the top of my pack. I want it to be accessible for me, but if I'm the one that gets injured or in the survival situation, I want the people I'm with to be able to access this and know what this is. So this is a very clear bag that's always at the top of my pack. It's in my day hatch in my kayak, or it's with some of my gear when I'm whitewater paddling. But this is something I always have with me. And it's nice too because I can just throw it between my gear. So it's like one of the first things I think about. So I mentioned the first thing that I'm gonna pull out is my first aid kit, which we'll talk about probably in another video. But a first aid kit, you wanna think about the activity you're doing, but the most important thing in your first aid kit is your mind, because you have to know how to use what you're bringing with you. I've seen some people that'll just go out and buy these huge medical grade emergency kits. It's like you're not going to be doing sutures in the field, you're not going to be doing anything. And as we know, most, even though outdoor activities are what are called inherent risk activities, there are actually very few injuries that require anything beyond a Band-Aid that you see in an outdoor environment, unless you're doing some silly things. But that's why we do things responsibly when we go outside. The next thing you'll see is a headlamp. So you always want to have a light source. So I have this with some extra batteries. And you can see this is super small, lightweight. I have a more heavy duty headlamp that's my main one, but this is something that I always keep with me because even if I'm on a day hike, I might get lost, I might get turned around, I might get really excited trying to like send this climb and I stay a little longer than I should, and then I've actually needed a headlamp to hike out several times. And I've been with people and they're like, "Oh, you have a headlamp, that's good, that's a good idea." All right, so I got some fire starters. So that's the next piece that we want to make sure we have. And I have a few different fire starting options. So these are cool little kindling balls that you can create. So these will actually light super easily with a spark, with a match, with any kind of flame source, any kind of heat source. And these will actually stay on fire for about 5 minutes, which gives you enough time to, once you create your fire, to keep it going. I have my nice little beanie so I can stay warm. So this is just something that I can lock the heat in my head, but it also helps me feel cozy if I'm in an emergency situation, because the biggest thing is you want to be comfortable, you want to be confident. Remember, it's all about that positive mindset when you're in a survival situation. So I have a nice little knife here. This is really a great tool for a lot of different applications. If I need to whittle something down for my fire, if I need to create a trap or something like that to get food, if I'm in a really bad survival situation, that's just something great to have. So this is another fire starter. I'm not going to start a fire here, but this is a quick flint and steel, so I can use this a lot of times. I can use this in wet conditions. That's the other thing you want to think about, is oftentimes if you're in a survival situation, you're going to be in a case where everything's probably going to be going wrong. So it's probably going to be raining, it's probably going to be snowing, it's going to be cold, so you're going to want to make sure that you're able to light a fire. And then finally I have this pretty cool, it's actually a survival bivvy. So this has the space blanket material here. So this reflects my body heat back into me. This is a waterproof shell, so I can actually sleep in this, so it kind of works like a little sleeping bag. Doesn't have a lot of insulation in it. That's why I always want to have an extra jacket with me. I always have my rain jacket, that sort of thing. The other thing we're thinking about with our 10 essentials, which I don't have in my bag because I have it nice and accessible in my backpack pocket when I'm going, is my map and compass. So we want to think about our navigation as we're going forth, because most of the time we're in a survival situation, it's because we get lost or we plan poorly. So maybe we overestimated the ability level of our group. We're gonna go on this 30-mile hike that's straight up and down mountains. We get tired, we start to make poor decisions. Maybe we're not hydrating ourselves well, that sort of thing. Which was a good reminder that I do have water purification tablets in my first aid kit. So if I'm on an extended trip, I'll bring a water filtration system. You always want to have at least 2 methods of water purification, just like you want to have at least 2 methods to start fires as you're going out. Like I have a lighter in my cook kit, but I'll often use the flint and steel. I actually use that to start my stove sometimes too, just because it's fun. But yeah, so that's pretty much it. So think about your kit. Obviously, again, the mind, know how to use everything you have, know where it's at, and know that you have it in your pack, and tell everybody you're going with, hey, this is my plan, this is what I have with me. So have fun out there. And as we talked about with our 10 essentials, having things accessible with our map and compass, we also want to make sure we have our signaling device. So I got my Fox 40, so I didn't blow that very loud because I don't want to scare people, but whistle's a lot louder than your voice. You don't want to be yelling and shouting because then you're going to waste a lot of hydration. So always have a whistle handy to communicate with your group.